Okay, so do we, let's see, is the first case first resolution investments, is that an objection? What is the objection? Is it an objection to a GARN? Parties here? Maybe the parties aren't here on this. Okay, so LVNV then is the next case. And I see Mr. Nate here.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor.
I'm actually his assistant, the recorder.
Ah, okay.
I'm actually his. So you guys are ready? So somebody has their volume on their computer really loud, and you'll have to turn that off or down.
And I'm here for the defendant.
Mr. Geller, I think it's your speakers that are on your computer. If you could turn those off.
I don't have anything on.
Oh, actually, it's Ms. Knudsen. I apologize.
No problem.
Yeah. So, Ms. Knudsen, can you turn your speaker volume down on your computer? I think that might help.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that.
Doesn't seem to be too bad right now. Well, yeah, it is. So if you go, let's see, no, I can still hear myself. All right, can you mute yourself? Here, I'll just go ahead and mute you and see if that helps. Okay, sorry everybody. Okay, so I'm sorry, Mr. Geller, you're here for the defense side, and it's a pre-trial today. Okay.
Correct.
And then let's see. And then the other pretrial we have is on Kirk's Plumbing. Is that the case that you're on? Is it Nyan Hiss?
That is, it's, yeah, 9 Heiss.
9 Heiss. Okay. You're here on the Kirk's Plumbing matter?
Correct. And I have Blair Valley, the defendant.
I'm sorry, sir. What did you say?
I represent Blair Valley, the defendant in that one.
Thank you so much. And it looks like we're waiting on Mr. Burdett. All right, so let me go ahead and get the judge, and we'll get our first pretrial done. We're live. Okay, yeah. Okay, everyone, the judge will be with us shortly.
docket. All right, good afternoon. This is LVNV funding versus Pamela Cooper, and that is file 212645GC1. And let's see, who do we have on behalf of LVNV?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Preston Nate, P77884.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Nate. And let's see, Attorney Geller is here on behalf of Pamela Cooper.
Correct.
Okay, is Ms. Cooper present?
No, I have her authority to do whatever.
Okay, so we're here for a pretrial conference. And as I understand it, we're talking about a credit card debt around $1,700, and there's a dispute as to the amount of the bill. And so would either party like to have some period of discovery?
Yes, I would. I need to get copies of the, this is a debt that was assigned or sold. So I'd like to get copies of that assignment, and if possible, a copy of the account. This is an account stated. There was no affidavit because it was assigned. So I need to see the underlying documents as to how they arrived at that number.
Okay, how long do you think you need for that discovery? Maybe 60 or 90 days?
Yeah, somewhere in that range. It shouldn't take that much. It's not going to be anything voluminous.
No, yeah, 60 would be fine. So we'll get all that stuff over to you, Mr. Geller.
Okay, well, we'll try the 60 days. And let's see, depositions are not permitted without leave of the court. How about, go ahead, Mr. Geller.
Yeah, we shouldn't be any, the only thing I was going to maybe just a request for production of documents. That's about it.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured. So what about time for filing any amendments to pleadings or counterclaims? I guess I wouldn't expect any of those.
Yeah, probably not on our end.
No, there may be a motion, but that would be still a maybe.
Okay, so we'll give you the same amount of time for that and a discovery, and same for any other types of motions. Let's see, witness lists and exhibits, how long to furnish those to the other party?
I mean, it's probably the same. I mean, it's going to be the same documents that we'll send anyway. So 60 days.
Right.
Okay. Does either side think that conflict resolution services would be helpful?
I don't think that we will need to do that. I probably feel like I could just probably talk to Mr. Geller once he's had a chance to look over the documents, and we can probably work it out.
You agree, Mr. Geller?
Yes, and it's an added expense for this amount of claim is really probably not cost prohibitive.
Okay, so I agree. Let's see, I will schedule a settlement conference, however, get the parties together in case it gets to that point. Is either side asking for a jury trial?
No.
So I'll schedule it for a 2-hour non-jury trial. I would want trial briefs and any stipulations or other documents for evidence purposes 1 week before trial. And is there anything else either side would like to see as part of the pretrial agreement or order, I should say?
Looks good on our end, Your Honor.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Would the next hearing be
Okay.
a settlement conference or another pretrial?
That would be the settlement conference.
Okay, that's fine. So if there's any motions, I set it up for the same time.
If there are any motions, we could hear those before the settlement conference. It's probably better to get those out of the way before that, or we could schedule it the same day and maybe have you conduct a pretrial after, or a settlement after the motion is heard. But I would it's probably better to just get any motions heard. That way there might be something more to talk about at the settlement conference. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
All right. If there's nothing else, then we're all set for today, and I appreciate your appearances.
Oh, just one quick question. Will we get a copy of the order sent to us or?
Yes, you will.
Okay, just checking.
Okay,
thanks.
all set.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Geller.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to Kirk's Plumbing versus Blair Valley Club Incorporated. And that is, let's see, we've got Mr. Burdette here for the plaintiff and Mr. Reisberg for defendants. And this is also the date for a pretrial conference. So I know we've already had a motion for summary disposition at which the count 2 was dismissed. There's also a counterclaim, and so let's see. Would either party request a period of discovery?
Afternoon, Your Honor. This is Chris Nineheis. I'm appearing for Mr. Reisberg and on behalf of Blair Valley. And yes, we would request discovery.
What do you think, 90 days?
I think that would be good. Thank you.
How about you, Mr. Burdette?
Would it be possible for, let's see, 90, that would put us in August. Would it be possible for, I hate to say it, 120 days? Because I have 3 trials in June.
Okay, well, Mr. Ninehouse, what do you think of that? Is that gonna work?
I don't want to jam up Mr. Burdette, so 120 days is fine.
Okay, so we'll give 120 days for discovery. Depositions are not permitted without a stipulation or leave of the court. How about a similar time period for any other motions or counterclaims? Is that okay with you, Mr. Ninehouse?
Well, I guess going back to the discovery, we would request that depositions be allowed in this one.
Yeah, I don't have an objection to that.
You don't? Okay, well, so I'll change that then. And I'm sure you'll let me know if you think the discovery process is being abused on either side.
Heather?
Hang on just a second.
Her name is Misty.
Mr. Quaylar, is that Mr. Quaylar that's speaking right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm conducting another hearing right now. No worries, but if you could, I'm going to have you muted right now so that, are you here for the hearing at 2:30?
I am, yes, sir.
Your Honor, is it, I'm sorry to
Okay,
interrupt. Is it possible to put me in a breakout room with him?
Oh, sure. Okay, so the prosecutor would like to speak with you, Mr. Quaylar.
All right.
And so look for the invitation on your device there. and we'll put you in that breakout room.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Thank you. All right, so back to the pretrial order then. So how about furnishing copies of exhibit and witness lists? Is that okay if we just give it the 120 days also?
Yeah, that's fine, Your Honor.
That works for us. Thank you.
All right. What about mediation in this case? Do you think that would be helpful, Mr. Burdette?
I think so, Your Honor.
Okay, it looks like you're both nodding your heads yes. So, but do you think conflict resolution services would fit the bill, or do you think more formal facilitated mediation would be helpful?
I think conflict resolution services would work for us, Judge.
Yeah, that'll work for us as well.
Okay, so we'll set it for conflict resolution services. I'm going to give it the same 120 days to have that complete, if that makes sense to both of you.
That does, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay. I will set it also for a settlement conference in case that doesn't resolve things. Is either side requesting a jury trial?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, if we do try this with a non-jury trial, how much time do you think we're going to need for that? Mr. Burdette?
I'm thinking about it. Does the court have full day trials, or does it start at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, we can schedule a full day if you think it's going to take that long, or we can start at 1 o'clock and go until it gets dark if need be. So,
All right, I think a full day would probably be good.
I think that sounds right.
all right, so a 1-day non-jury trial, and let's see, it's also ordered that the parties will submit trial briefs and supporting documents 1 week before the trial. So is there anything else that either party would like to add to the scheduling order?
Your Honor, could we add that motions for summary disposition are due 30 days after the closes?
30 days after close of discovery. Does that sound okay to you, Mr. Burdette?
That sounds good with me, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, I've added that to the order, and if there's nothing else, then we're all set for today. Make sure you set up your mediation for with conflict resolution services within the next 120 days, and if there's nothing else, we're all set for today.
Very good. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you both. Feel free to sign out at this time. Okay, so I'm going to assume that everyone else that's on the call right now is here for the 2:30 order to show cause filed by the prosecutor. And so we've got the prosecutor, Devin Blue, and the defendant in a breakout room right now, in case you weren't here. I'm getting a lot of feedback, and I
Ms.
don't.
Knudsen, I had muted her earlier. She needs to turn her computer volume.
Yeah, but I'm here for the garnishment. Objection to garnishment.
Oh, it's Bozak. Okay, hang on a second though, because I'm getting a lot of feedback, and I got to figure out where it's coming from. Said Ms. Knutson. I don't see a Ms. Knutson.
It says AKA Knudsen, Judge.
Oh,
Ms.
AKA
Bozak.
Knutson. Ah, that did solve the problem. I'm not sure why that is, Ms. Bozak, but I muted you just for a second here. So you're here on the objection to garnishment, and I haven't seen anyone here. Maybe I'm wrong, but for First Resolution Investments, is there anyone here on behalf of First Resolution Investments? No. Okay. So this is the thing, Ms. Bozak. I think I'll unmute. Well, I'm not going to unmute you, but I will in a second here. It appeared to me, at least from a cursory review of your objection, that you had a valid reason for objecting to the garnishment. And so, given the fact that the plaintiff is not present, I'm assuming they threw their cards in and said, yeah, she's right. So I will be granting your motion to set aside the garnishment. And is there anything else we need to discuss today? I'm going to unmute you now. There should be a button for you to click to. There you go.
I did.
You're all set? Okay. Well, feel free to sign out then at this time.
So are they going to unfreeze my mother's account?
Well, what you probably need to do is present my order once you get a copy of that signed order, and present it to the bank so that they will unfreeze the assets, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so hang on just a second. I need to get my file and exhibits before we get started. Did you bring the exhibits in or?
Nope, I handed them to you at your desk.
This is weird. This is really weird. Shh. It's muted.
No, you're not muted.
It's still be on.
You're not muted.
They're not even on yet. They might not. They ain't gonna let this stand.
Sir, just so you know, we can still hear you guys.
Joe?
So it's not muted.
Prosecutor, she might be talking to us.
Yeah, we can still hear you guys. You're not muted. I just wanted to let you know that.
What's that? We just unmuted it.
Nope, so you've been unmuted the whole time. We could hear you.
Told you.
So I don't know what happened, but we could still hear you.
All right, we'll shut up.
Okay, so good afternoon. We're here in case number 213443GZ1 in the matter of a pit bull owned by Misty and Miranda Mead. And I take it that the Meads are, they're currently named Williams Galaxy Tab A. Yes, okay, you can unmute yourself at this time if you like.
There we go.
I'm going to rename you so I don't get lost here. Let's see. We also have the prosecutor here, Ms. Blue, and it looks like Animal Control Officer Brown and the alleged victim in the case, Mr. Quaylar. And Ms. I'm going to butcher your name here, but Obodzinski, am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you here for this case as well?
Yes.
And I take it you're a witness then?
Yeah, I'm a veterinarian.
Okay. You had that veterinary look about you, by the way, so I was guessing that. And Mr. Springstead, you're here for this case as well?
Yeah, I'm the physician that saw Mr. Cuellar.
I'm sorry, Springsteen. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. So, Ms. Blue, you've had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Quaylar, and are you ready to proceed with this hearing?
I am, Your Honor. I have not had an opportunity to speak to the Meads. If they would like to speak to me now, I can, but I haven't had an opportunity to speak to them yet.
Okay, so sometimes these cases are, rather than spend the next couple hours testifying, and I'm not saying it's necessarily going to take that long, but sometimes they get resolved with a short discussion between the parties. So I'm going to put Ms. Blue and the Meads in a breakout room, and let's see, anything you say in there has nothing to do with court. So feel free to speak freely with the prosecutor. And let's see. So it's going to take a second for me to set this up. Okay, so Misty and Miranda Mead, if you're going to get a pop-up on your device, you'll need to accept that to get in the breakout room. Okay? All right, we'll be in a brief recess then until they get back.
Your Honor?
Yeah, Dr. Springsteen?
Yeah, is it possible for me to step out and see a patient and come back, do you think?
You know, that I think that sounds just fine. And I'll just let the prosecutor know that that's what you're doing. If you can let me know in some way, just speak up or whatever. when you get back, she may want to call you right away to get you on your way, okay?
Okay. And I'll have my office manager kind of keep an eye on the courtroom here too. So if things come back, she can come and get me also.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that works just fine, okay?
Thank you very much.
Sure thing. Well, let me know as soon as they get back. We'll get started.
Strange. All new to me. I think it's very interesting. Well, we're here. And it says we got more mushrooms out here. She must have a lot to say.
All right, I see that Ms. Blue is back. And
So I think they're stuck in the breakout room if you're able to close that for them.
okay, I'll do that. Okay, there are the Meads back again. Okay, so is there any resolution, Ms. Blue, or do we need to go ahead with the hearing?
Yeah, we need to go proceed with the hearing today.
Okay, so this is how this is going to proceed, Ms. Mead and Ms. Mead. The prosecutor is going to call witnesses. You will have an opportunity to ask those witnesses questions. At the end of the, then at the end of the prosecutor's case, you'll be allowed to call your own witnesses and present your own evidence.
I didn't know it was either. I apologize, Your Honor. We didn't know that it was to this degree. We started going through what we had and none of it was correct. None of the information.
Okay.
I apologize. We did not get an attorney.
Well, most people at this point did not have an attorney. So that's not unusual at all. But we are going to go ahead and proceed at this time. So you'll be allowed to make a brief opening and closing statement. Let's limit it to about a minute here. So I have an idea what to expect as far as testimony. So Ms. Blue, would you like to make an opening statement?
Your Honor, I'll waive an opening.
Okay. Misty or Miranda Mead, would you like to make a brief opening statement?
Don't. I don't know. It's not his fault that there's ignorance in our line, and I'm sorry.
We don't know what to say.
I don't even know what to say.
He's
just.
Okay, I'll tell you what. This is not going to work well if I have both of you speaking at the same time. So I'm going to have you guys discuss which one of you is going to speak on your behalf. Okay. So, but I think I got the gist of that. So Ms. Blue, let's call your first witness. And by the way, Dr. Springsteen asked if he could see a patient while you were in the breakout room, and I told him go right ahead. Were you going to call him right away, or?
I was gonna call him and the vet right away just to get them in and out in the interest of time.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and, okay, did you want to call Dr. Springsteen first then?
Sure, unless he needs to go see a patient, and then I can call Dr. Robinson.
No, I just got back.
Okay, yep, so I will start with Dr. Springsteen.
Okay, so if you could please raise your right hand, Dr. Springsteen, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand down and go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, will you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Peter Springsteen, Springsteen.
And how are you currently employed?
I work at the Munson Walk-In Clinic.
Did you have an opportunity to visit with Mr. Cuellar around May 5th?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please describe that interaction?
I have the medical record in front of me, and so I'm going to refer to that. I saw him, he came in, and the description was that he had been injured at breaking up a dog fight on the day before, on May 4th. He had a puncture and a laceration of his index finger in his right hand. He stated that yesterday around 5 or 6 p.m., his neighbor's pit bull came up on his porch and attacked his dog. The patient got between the two dogs and attempted to rescue his own dog. He was able to pry the pit bull's jaws apart and release his dog. But the pit bull then clamped on and punctured the index finger of our patient. He stated this same dog bit him about a year ago. He was seen at Munson at that time and had a tetanus shot. Animal control had been contacted on that occasion, and they were in the process of contacting animal control on this occasion. The patient states that his neighbor said the dog was up to date on its vaccinations. The patient stated that his finger was more sore and he was concerned about infection. So then I evaluated him, and I did. Did you want me to? I thought maybe someone said something. Should I keep going?
It sounded like it, but I don't know who. So go ahead and keep going after what you observed.
Okay.
Evaluated him.
So there was a puncture site with dried blood on the far end of his index finger. It was crusted and dried. There wasn't any active bleeding or open wounds. He didn't have any swollen lymph nodes. It was tender, but his strength was good and his blood supply was good. And so I assessed that he had an open bite of the index finger. He was bitten by the dog. Because dog bites tend to get infected, I started him on an antibiotic called Augmentin. I did an x-ray of his finger, which didn't show any injury to the bone at the point of the puncture site. It did show an abnormality that I thought was probably not related. I prescribed antibiotics, and that's the summary of what I did with the patient.
Nothing further for this question.
Okay, so let's see. Would you prefer, which of you is going to ask questions of Dr. Springsteen if you want to ask questions, Misty or Miranda Mead?
Misty.
Okay, so go ahead, Misty. Okay, go ahead.
What was the date of that, Your Honor? What was the date of that, doctor?
I saw him on May 5th, and he described the dog bite as occurring on May 4th.
And you saw him on May 5th?
Correct.
Okay. And you said that with the puncture, it was the dry blood. And you did do the x-ray showing that it was an abnormality from before.
I heard most of what you said. So yes, I did say there was dry blood, and then I couldn't hear what you said about the x-ray.
Oh, about the abnormality. It was unrelated and abnormality in his hand.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any additional questions, Ms. Blue?
No, Your Honor, and Dr. Springsteen can be excused if there's nothing else.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and excuse Dr. Springsteen. Thank you for your appearance here this afternoon. You're all set. You can log off if you like.
Thank you.
Okay, next witness, Ms. Blue.
Your Honor, we called Dr. Obadzinski.
Okay, Dr. Obadzinski, if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
All right, you can put your hand down and go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Thank you. Doctor, am I pronouncing your name please?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Jennifer Obadzinski, Obudzinski.
And did you have opportunity to evaluate, I believe the dog's name is Sam, on or about May 5th, 2021?
Yes, I did.
Can you please tell the court about that evaluation?
So Sam had presented for evaluation of a wound to his neck after a reported dog fight. When he presented, he was stable. There was only one wound identified on the underside of his neck. It was about a little less than 1 centimeter in diameter. It was a puncture wound that did extend a couple layers deep. It was oozing a little bit of blood. No other wounds were identified. We did clip the fur around the wound and further explored the wound. It did have a little bit of pocketing underneath. We did clean the wound with an antibiotic solution and sent him home with medications for pain and for infection.
Did you have to see, or I guess was Sam revisited at all due to these injuries?
No, I did not.
And doctor, I see my screen here.
Yes.
What is this first page appear to you? You see it?
Yes. That is just a examination report from his visit.
Okay, and is this the report that you would have completed after evaluating Sam?
Yes.
Does it appear to be in substantially the same condition as to when you created it?
Yeah, that is essentially the summary that the client goes home with. Yes.
Your Honor, this has been pre-marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 4. I would move for the admission of this exhibit.
All right, did you provide a copy of the exhibits to the Meads?
Yep, this would have been in their packet that they got from animal control.
Okay, so is there any objection to admission of that exhibit for Ms. Mead?
No, there's nothing.
Okay, so I'm going to mark that as People's Exhibit number 4, and that is admitted. All right, go ahead, Ms. Blue.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, so this is your opportunity to ask Dr. Obadzinski questions. So, Misty Mead, would you like to ask the questions again?
Yeah. What time was that on Wednesday that you saw him?
The medical report was started at 10:32 a.m. on May 5th.
On May 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw him personally?
I did.
Because didn't I get the ticket for May 5th at 6 o'clock at night? I was gonna say at that point he hadn't even been attacked, according to my ticket that I received, which would have been at between 5 and 6 of the 5th.
Your Honor, I'm just going to object that this witness wouldn't know what time she was receiving a ticket from animal control.
Okay, well, Dr. Obadzinski, you don't know when the ticket was issued, do you?
I do not.
Okay, the witness doesn't have any personal knowledge of that, and so she wouldn't be allowed to testify. Go ahead and ask your next question, Ms. Mead.
In your professional opinion, then, does that look like a savage pit bull attack with what you saw and presented in front of you, ma'am?
The wound was
A dangerous animal.
The wound was consistent with an injury that could have been caused by an animal bite.
Which could have been a raccoon or a rabbit or the neighborhood's kids.
I can't.
That calls for speculation.
What animal?
Yeah. So it's here. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to allow the testimony only because the doctor is saying that even in the absence of any evidence that it was a raccoon or some other animal, she's saying that's possible, I guess, that she doesn't know. She just knows it's a puncture wound. Could have been caused by a dog or maybe some other animal. So I am going to allow it for that purpose. But Ms. Mead would have to present some evidence to show that it's some other animal, I guess, later on here. If Misty Mead or Miranda Mead would like to talk a little bit about additional questions they may have for Dr. Obzinski, you can mute yourself and discuss that among yourselves if you want to take a minute to do that. Or do you think you're finished with your questions?
Yeah. We're all right with the questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Ms. Blue, did you have any follow-up questions for the doctor?
I do not, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I want to thank Dr. Obzinski for being here. And if there's no objection, we'll go ahead and release her from her subpoena and let her get back to her day.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Thanks again, Doctor. Okay. So, Ms. Blue, do you have additional witnesses?
I do, Your Honor. At this time, the people will call Mr. Cuellar. I hope I'm saying your name right.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Cuellar, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Thank you. Mr. Cuellar, can you please state your name, spell your name for the record?
Israel Cuellar, Cuellar.
And can you give us a description on what happened on or about May 5th of 2021?
I was on my porch having coffee with my dog, and Milo came around the corner of the house and jumped up on the porch, grabbed my dog, dragged him down to the ground, and proceeded to thrash him around by the neck and try to kill him, actually.
Okay, so I want to break that down a little bit. So you were sitting on the porch, you said?
Yes, all the way up in the porch there.
Okay. And you said Milo. Who is Milo?
Milo is Misty and Miranda's dog, the pit bull in question here.
And how do you know that?
Well, the first time there was the first incident, and I learned his name, the first incident, and the second incident when I took him back to them because he came over to my yard again. I already knew Milo's, name and everything. So when he come around the house and he jumped on the porch and grabbed my dog and dragged him off, it's Milo. I mean,
Okay.
It's their dog, yes.
So before we talk about the first and second incident, so the dog comes up onto your porch.
Yes.
And what happens at that time?
He grabs my dog by the neck and pulls him off the porch, down the steps and onto the ground.
Okay. Where does he have your dog by?
By the neck.
What are you doing as this?
I jumped right down in there within 2 seconds, and the only thing I could think of is turn my dog loose, or else this dog is going to kill him. So I didn't hesitate to pry his jaws open to free my dog. The small puncture wound that was on there would have been greater if I wouldn't have done anything.
Were you able to get the dog's mouth off of your dog's neck?
Yes. After I stuck my fingers in his mouth and pried his mouth open, then he turned my dog loose. And then I held on to Milo and I kept screaming for the Misty and Miranda or whoever it was to come out and get him. After like about a minute and a half or so, then she heard the screaming and all, and she come out, and I had her dog on the ground right there. So she looked at it and says, well, what's wrong with it? I says, well, I punched it in the head she says, with what? I says, with my hand. And she was laying on the ground. So she picked it up, took it home. She says, I'm going to take him home. I'll be right back to check on you in a few minutes. So that was no raccoon that attacked my dog, I'm sorry to say.
Okay. What did you do after that?
Well, I cleaned my hand off and I looked at my dog and I evaluated, what I had to do. And we were in shock. I wasn't bleeding very, very much. You usually, after incidents like this, by experience on my first time, you wait about an hour and a half and the shock wears off, and then the pain and the blood and everything starts coming out. So then I could evaluate the nature of the injuries a little bit more then.
Okay. After doing that, in that waiting time, what did you do?
Well, I didn't think I was going to have to go in, but after the initial shock went off and then the pain started coming, then it started getting really, really bad. I couldn't sleep at all that night. So I had to go in early the next morning to the doctor to have him look at my hand, because I didn't want it to get infected and I didn't want to lose my fingertip or anything.
And did you see Dr. Springsteen that was on here earlier?
Yes, at the walk-in clinic.
Okay. Did you then seek treatment at all for your dog?
Yes, I took him over to Banfield and so they could check him out and treat him there.
Okay. Did you have any interactions there with Miranda or Misty Mead following this incident?
No, Misty came over a couple of days afterwards to see how everything was. That was very nice of her, and asked me if there was anything she could do, pay the bills or anything like that. And I told her it was out of my hands. I had to, I was thinking of taking a different avenue this time around. In order to maybe stop it permanently.
Okay. You had talked about earlier first time. What happened the first time?
The first time I was on my yard with my dog, I was working on my boat, and then he something startled him and he looked across the yard, and I looked across the yard, and here comes Milo, the dog, running across the yard. And then he jumped up and he grabbed my dog by the neck. He grabbed him pretty good that first time he grabbed him pretty good. And so I started to do the same thing, pry his lips open so he could turn my dog loose, and that wasn't working. My neighbor lady come up, she says, what can I do to help? I says, give me that tire iron over there, I'm gonna kill it. So she hands me the tire iron, and I couldn't bring myself to kill it, so I stuck my hands in his mouth and pried open with everything I had, and he turned my dog loose. After he turned my dog loose, then I held on to him and I kept screaming, because their house is just behind my house, kitty corner. And I screamed real loud, and finally Miranda down the driveway when everything was all separated and said and done and everything. And I gave her the dog, and she took it home.
Okay. When was that first incident, do you think?
The first incident was June the 7th.
Of what year?
20, last year.
Okay. Did you need to seek any veterinary treatment or medical treatment for yourself or your dog after that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I went to Munson. I went to the real hospital because my hand was really messed up. And they looked at it there and they treated it. And then I took him over to Banfield, and his wounds were considerably more serious than the ones this time around. So they treated him, and they give him the medicine, and they shaved his neck and everything else that they do to him. And so I took him in, and I took myself in as well.
Okay. Were there any medical bills incurred for Sam on after that first incident's attack?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that amount?
It was like about $350, $360.
Did you have any opportunity to interact with either Miranda or Misty Mead to ask for the payment of those veterinary bills?
Well, when I finally got all the papers together after I saw treatment, I went over there and I think Miranda was the one that was home, and I said I wanted to show you guys this, so that you could start working on it or something. And she says, okay, I'll take it and I'll show it to my lawyer. And I said, well, this is the only copy I have. Let me take it home, make a copy, and then I'll bring you one and I'll keep one. And then this way you can do whatever you want to with your own copy. So the next day when I got the copy and I went back, they didn't answer the door. I tried for the next 3 months and they wouldn't open up the door. My son, Joe, here even went with me a couple of times and stood out by the road while I knocked on the door, and nobody ever answered anything. So I figured, well, I'm never going to get this money for the vet. So I decided, well, what can you do? You can't do anything about it. So about three months later, when I was coming home with groceries and the side of my van door was open, my dog was in there with the groceries. And then I looked up and here comes Milo, the dog, again, right across the yard. And he jumped right inside my car, and I managed to grab him before he could latch onto my dog. And then I held him there for a while. He kind of scratched me on the legs and the knees and stuff, but I took him all the way home to the Misty and Miranda's house. And Misty was very glad and very appreciative that I brought him over. That the following day, she brought me over the $360 that I had been seeking for the last 3 months. So that was nice. And on this last incident here, the dog bill for the vet was $225.75.
Okay. Now you had talked about that you had gone back over. Were there any conversations with either of the Meads about any type of anything that would be done to prevent it from happening again?
Well, just that they would try to make an effort. That's all. Apparently, the first time they failed, and the second time they failed. They always had some good excuses and explanations, and then the third time they failed again to contain their dog. And ma'am, I can't afford to go through another time, with another attack. I don't think I could stand that.
Okay. One moment here. Sir, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. What are these pictures that I'm showing?
Those are the medicine for myself and for my dog, and his injuries and some of my injuries from this time around. Okay. See that the dog, the neck on my dog there is pretty bloody.
Okay. That was the one puncture wound?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move for the admission of people's proposals.
All right, well, I think you're gonna need to go through each of these individually. Well, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 photos of an injury to a finger, it looks like. And okay, Misty and Miranda Mead, if you have an objection to the photos, I'll give you a chance to raise that, okay? But right now I'm speaking to Ms. Blue. So I think you're gonna need to go through these individually. I'm not sure if these all occurred on the same day or
sure,
what, but, okay.
Okay. Ms. Crayer, what are we looking at these first two pictures that you can see?
That's my bandaged up finger after I got home from the walk-in clinic. And I believe that's one of my medicines for myself.
Okay. And what about these next 4 pictures?
Okay,
Yes,
hang on, hang on.
that's a picture of,
Hang on, Mr. Quaylar, could I have you hang on just a second? I'm gonna mark the pill bottle as Exhibit 1 and the bandaged finger as People's Exhibit 2.
Okay,
And those have not been moved to be admitted yet, but they're just marked right now. So go ahead with the next one.
thank you.
and that's, I know that my pointer finger that was wrapped up was the most badly hurt, but on these other fingers where you see the puncture wounds, he came down all the way down to the bone. I know that they're not bandaged. Yes, right there. They're not bandaged or anything, but he went all the way down to the bone to where he couldn't bite down anymore. And my other fingers had injuries as well, but just the one pointer finger was the one that was pretty bad. So that's the one that we bandaged up and soaked and sought treatment for.
So, Your Honor, I guess the upper left-hand corner, if we could mark that as proposed Exhibit 3.
Okay, that's Exhibit 3. And let's do this. Well, are you going to introduce the other photos on that page also?
I am, if I don't know how the court wants to.
Okay. We'll stop there. And are there any objections to the picture of the pill bottle, the bandaged finger, or the knuckle that you can see appears to be injured in Exhibit 3? So Exhibits 1 through 3.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, no objections to those, so they are admitted. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I guess what we would do is we already admitted in Exhibit 4. I'd ask that these start at 5, just to be more clear for the court.
Oh, yeah, the Banfield Pet Hospital exhibit is 4. That's already been admitted. So now we're going on to Exhibit 5. Okay.
Correct. So, sir, can you please, so this one will be marked as proposed Exhibit 5, and the second pill bottle will be Exhibit 6. Can you describe to the court what those are?
Yes, the two blue ones up on top are medicine for my dog that I got from Banfield. And the one down here, the green bottle, that's medicine for myself that they gave me.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of proposed Exhibit 5 and 6.
All right. Is there any objection to admission of those? Okay, so no objection. And you will be allowed to cross-examine Mr. Quaylar about anything about these photos. But those are admitted, 5 and 6. So go ahead, Ms. Blue.
And sir, what is this picture right here in the bottom right-hand corner?
That's a picture of my dog. I was trying to get his neck, but the lighting was bad. And now that you kind of zoom in and you can see down at the bottom there where he was bleeding, but that was just another photograph of his neck that I was trying to get for in case, we needed it here.
Is this in relation to the May 5th incident?
Yes, all these that we've been talking about, they're from May the 5th.
Okay.
Just recently, yes.
So I'd move for the admission of People's Proposed Exhibit 7.
Okay, any objection to Exhibit 7?
Yeah,
No.
I object to it all. I'd like an attorney, please. Your Honor, I'd really like an attorney because I object to what he's saying. I don't even know when I'm supposed to speak, when I'm not supposed to speak. Your Honor, I am so sorry for my ignorance, but this man, I could tell you times and dates that I've spoken with him.
Okay. Hang on, Miss Mead. This is not your opportunity to just go on and on, okay? All right, first, let's take this one thing at a time, all right? This was the date for a hearing. You had an opportunity to get an attorney. You did not do that. This is a civil case. Okay, this is not a civil case. Or I'm sorry, this is a civil case. It's not a criminal case. You're not entitled to an attorney, okay?
I'm entitled to an attorney at any given point being an American citizen.
You're not entitled to a court-appointed attorney, okay? You can hire your own attorney, but you haven't brought any attorney to court with you today, and you are not entitled to an attorney appointed by the court. This is not like a criminal case where you have that right, okay?
I know, but this is my dog's well-being. This is my emotional support guy. Milo is my emotional support guy. That is what gets me through day by day. That's what gets me through the moment. That's what gets me out of bed, Your Honor.
Okay, well, Ms. Mead,
I don't want to sit in center one until the guy gets out. That's not fair.
okay, Ms. Mead, the best thing you can do is try to remain calm here and present the best case you can as far as what happened, all right? So I've got a couple dogs myself. And
Allocations, all this hearsay from a gentleman that we're gonna get contempt of court.
okay, Ms. Mead, you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions about that, but this is not hearsay. The witness just testified that's what his dog's neck looked like after this hearing. That is not hearsay. He's saying that these are his pill bottles. That was his finger. That is not hearsay. It's not even close to something that would be considered hearsay.
That was of a black people.
I'm not going to argue about it. All right, Ms. Mead, I'm going to mute you so that Ms. Blue can finish her case, and then I'll put you back on, well, this is the thing. If you want to object at this point, you're going to have to raise your arm, okay? Because I can't seem to get you to calm down. You're not doing yourself any favors by just ranting and raving. If you have evidence to show that this was not an action your dog took, you will have a chance to present that, okay? So let's go ahead and continue. I do want to hear your side of it, Ms. Mead, but right now it's the prosecutor's turn to present their case, and you will have your opportunity as well, okay? All right, go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Thank you, Your Honor. For clarification, I don't know if people's proposed Exhibit 7 was admitted or not at this point.
Okay, well, I guess that's where I asked if there was any objection, and I'm going to admit People's Exhibit 7 since there's been no valid objection to it. And go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Thank you. Mr. Quayer, what are these top, I guess, what are the pictures on the screen at this time?
There are injuries that I sustained on the 4th of May when we were attacked by the dog.
Okay, and what do the pictures show?
My pointer finger that's been bitten, and then some other additional fingers because I stuck both hands in there. So most of them, I had at least 8 fingers inside his mouth. So the one pointer got the worst of it, but all the other, he's got more teeth. So they went into the other knuckles and fingers, but the one was the more serious, that pointer there, that one there, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I move for the admission of what would be 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Any objection to admission of People's Exhibits 8, 9, 10, and 11? Yeah, go ahead. You're not muted. I didn't mute you. What is the objection?
We had the doctor already in here with the subpoena prior to stating that it was a small puncture wound. Before.
Okay, well,
now we have an after.
That's
pictures.
Okay, I thought the doctors. Okay, well, I think that goes to argument, so I'll let you make that argument. But Mr. Quaylar has testified this is his hand because, as a result of the May 4th incident, it does appear to be, frankly, it does appear to be a minor puncture wound, which is not to minimize being bit by a dog. But at the same time, I see nothing inconsistent to the point where this would be objectionable. And Mr. Quaylar actually says this is his hand, and that's his testimony. So the objection is noted, but I'm going to overrule it and admit the exhibits 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, go on, Ms. Blue.
Thank you. Mr. Cuellar, what are these pictures of your dog? Or I guess, what are the pictures of the dog on the screen?
They're just additional pictures with different angles on his neck there. I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of pictures in case something went wrong or something was doubted.
And is that your dog, Sam?
Yes, that's Sam right there, right? That same day.
The same day on May 4th?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admissions of the pictures of the dog, which would be 12, 13, and 14.
All right, hang on just a second. All right, what are those numbers again?
I believe it would be 12, 13, and 14.
Okay. Is there any objection to People's Exhibits 12, 13, and 14?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, no objection. So those are admitted. Next, Ms. Blue.
Finally, Mr. Cuellar, what's this last picture in the bottom right-hand corner?
That's the worst of the wounds. All the other ones were punctured, but this one here, he kind of sliced all the way down one side. And it almost felt like he bit between the two bones and almost kind of split them apart or something. I still can't use that finger very well.
Is that the finger that you sought medical treatment on?
Yes, well, they looked at all of them, but that's the one that I was concerned about because I'm a guitar player and I'm a piano player. So you see, I can't be doing this, you know, it's not good for me.
And is this the one that ended up being bandaged, or is
Yes.
that finger?
Yes, that's the one that wound up being bandaged the following day.
Your Honor, I'd ask for the admission of People's Proposed Exhibit 15.
All right. People's Exhibit 15 is admitted. And I don't know if that's Misty or Miranda that's smoking, but this is a court of law, even though this is a Zoom hearing. I expect that appropriate decorum will be observed. And so please put out your cigarette.
My scroll bottle. I
What?
respect that. Sorry, Your Honor. I respect that. Sorry, Your Honor.
What did she say?
She respects that. She's.
Oh, okay. You respect that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. And I know things are a little more relaxed because of Zoom. So no worries there. I just, I have to make sure we keep appropriate decorum here. So, all right, go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Mr. Cuellar, you had talked about on this recent visit going to the vet. Do you recall what the amount of the vet bills on this most recent visit were?
Yes, for this time around, $225.75 was for Sam's injuries for his treatment.
And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Was this proposed exhibit? What is this document, sir?
That's the bill that I got from Banfield that I had to pay that day.
4512. No, 225.75.
And is this has this been changed in any way, or is it the same condition as when you provided it to animal control?
Well, the 225 is for all the treatments that they gave him, but since I paid for the office call, I had him check for worms while he was there to save on the office fee. So that's all deducted. Just the 225 is just for the medical care that he got. So all the other stuff is, they don't have to pay that. I don't want them to pay that. It doesn't belong to them.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd move of People's Proposed Exhibit 16 then. It was previously labeled in the court's packet as Exhibit 3, but for number wise, if you move to admit this as Exhibit 16.
Okay, is there any objection to that exhibit?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so People's Exhibit 16 is admitted. And go ahead, Ms. Blue.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Give me a minute here. Okay, so at this time, Misty and Miranda, it's your turn to ask Mr. Quaylar questions, okay? And please obviously be respectful in your questioning, but go ahead and if both of you have questions, let's start with Miranda, okay? Is that okay, or would you rather start with Misty?
You can start with me, Your Honor, Miranda Mead.
Okay, so go ahead, Miranda Mead.
So going back to the first incident, with your first run-in with Milo, you say you got Milo off of Sam?
Yes, I pried his jaws open that first time as well. That's the only way that I was going to save my dog. And my dog is every bit as important to me as Milo is as important to you. And when somebody attacks him like that, I didn't even think about my hands or my fingers. All I knew is that I had to save him.
I recall it differently. I don't know how I'm supposed to go about that with a question wise, but I recall it differently. I came over when you were receiving the crowbar, and you had a hold of Milo's harness because he was harnessed that time. I recall it differently because I actually put my hands in my dog's mouth and told him to let go, and he let go of Sam. I don't know how I'm supposed to put that in question for him because I'm bad with words, but that's how I recall it.
Well, let me assist you with that, Ms. Mead. So, Mr. Quaylar, Ms. Mead is asking, at some point, did she intervene and try to get the dogs apart?
Your Honor, she didn't even go near those dogs. They were thrashing around so violently. And I did hit him with a crowbar, but I hit him on the ribs and the body. I didn't want to hit him in the head and kill him because I love dogs too, you know. But no, by the time everything was just almost said and done, she was coming up the driveway, and she never even got close to the dogs. She wouldn't dare get close to the dogs. Never.
Okay, at the point where you were hitting the dog with the crowbar, is that when it was still attacking your dog, or? Yes.
But I only hit him a couple of times, and then I just threw the crowbar away because I needed both hands to pry his jaws open and
that's not even how it happened. Do I object to it?
Okay, hey, hang on, Miss Mead. I'm trying.
I put my hands in the dog's mouth, and I walked my dog. The only time I went down his driveway was to walk my dog back around the neighborhood so that he knew the proper way that he was not supposed to go through the fence.
Okay, Mr. Quaylar, the question is, didn't she put her hands in the dog's mouth to get the two apart? That's what you're asking, Ms. Mead?
Yes, he never hit the dog with a crowbar, but yes, that is what I'm asking.
Okay. So she's kind of asking the same question. Does any of that jog your memory or change your your testimony?
Yep, she never stuck her hand in a dog's mouth, sir.
Okay. Now, I want to inform the Meads that you will have an opportunity to testify yourself under oath. Okay. So even if Mr. Quaylar is saying that's not what happened, I'll listen to your testimony if that's what you want to testify to. Okay. So that's how you get
Okay, I
that in.
appreciate that. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Questions?
I'm okay with questions. I'm gonna hand it over to Misty.
Okay.
Hi. So I'm asking him questions, right? Yes.
Yes.
All right. On the one and only day that Israel, that you and I met via dog fight, whatever, you had told me that you didn't. That was the day I heard the whistle. I came running to the whistle. You told me that you could not whistle, correct?
That's correct.
You and I were, I came back about 15 or 20 minutes later that evening after I had taken my unconscious dog home. I dropped him with my wife. I came back to check up on you and Sam to find out exactly what happened. And at that point, you and I were standing at your porch, and we were talking about the incident that had happened and how to keep this from happening, because this was my first legitimate incident with Milo. And did you not tell me that the next door neighbor lady said to you, "Here is my phone number. I will testify to whatever you want to get those pit bulls out of this neighborhood"?
No, not about taking the pit bulls out of the neighborhood. No, she just said if I needed help with anything, she was there because she saw the whole thing.
You needed a witness. And I quote, you said,
Your Honor, I tried to let this go, but this is all hearsay at this point. I don't know who the person is or what the testimony is referencing.
Well,
at that point, I had believed Israel.
Okay, hang on, Ms. Mead. I have to rule on this objection to evidence. I'm going to allow the statement because whether it was true or not, it tells me what the defendant was thinking. It's not being introduced for the truth of the matter asserted. It's only being introduced to show what the defendant was thinking. So go ahead, Ms. Mead.
When we were speaking and I was making sure you're all right, everything was okay. Because I was unsure of what happened. Like I said, I was napping, woke up, heard whistle. You said you couldn't whistle. You told me, Israel, you told me that she gave you a phone number. She handed you a phone number and said that she could be your witness at any given point.
No, ma'am. This lady this was the first incident. This had nothing to do with
when you and I spoke, I'm speaking about the incident that just happened, sir.
Well, we were talking about
the first
incident. Yes, we were talking about the first. I was referring to the first incident, not this one.
And then in this incident, you had explained to me firsthand that Milo had come up, taken him off the porch with his one minor puncture wound, drug him across your yard. And then that's where it had happened. You had showed me near flower beds, correct?
Yes.
And that's where the struggle happened. And how long did you say that struggle took place?
I don't know, 5 minutes.
Dog was only outside about 3 minutes, guaranteed. And with that, he was 40 feet. Oh, he was unconscious 40 feet away from where it allegedly had happened.
Yes, ma'am. I had to hit him. Correct? I had to hit him because otherwise he would have killed my dog. But I didn't kill him.
And he was
I could
40
have.
feet away from where. He was 40 feet from where it allegedly happened. Now, the little red dog that had partaked in this, that had let us know, where was he at?
I didn't see no dog.
The little red dog, Daniel?
No, I didn't. Never see any little dog at all.
And you had mentioned to me about the neighbors' dogs running the line constantly and having issues with them, an ongoing problem with the neighbors down the road and their little dogs, correct?
Well, you mentioned you heard the little yapping dog or something or other. I don't pay attention to those things, ma'am.
No, what you had told me, sir. What you had told me while I was over my unconscious dog. You had told me about the little dogs running the line. Because I had mentioned the invisible fence being cut again. And you said there was an ongoing problem with the ladies on the corner. They had little dogs.
Oh, they don't bother me. They bark, and they're little dogs. They bark. They don't ever come into my yard and attack my dog.
You had said something to me that day about that, about your
You were-
concern about
yes,
them.
you were the one that brought it up, and I confirmed that I hear yapping back there every now and then, but I don't have no problem with them.
All I had simply asked was, do you know what is causing the problem? I
Yes,
had
ma'am.
asked you from one neighbor to another. I had asked you, I said, Israel, what do you think is instigating this? And you explained to me that the little dogs, you told me there was little dogs that had been running up and down right there, and they're antagonizing Sam. That's why you said Sam has to stay on the porch or in the car, because they're
No, ma'am.
antagonizing.
No, ma'am, I never brought anything up
You didn't
about a
say that
little
to
dog.
me?
No.
But hang on, Ms. Mead, you've got to let Mr. Quaylar answer the question. So go ahead, Mr. Quaylar.
No, I never had no problem with any other dog in the neighborhood. There's dogs that bark all over the neighborhood, but that's okay because they stay in their yard. Your dog does not stay in your yard. That's why we're here today.
And that's why I had asked you what you think the underlying problem was.
Your failure to contain your dog, it's the problem.
In your opinion.
Yes.
And I asked you about the kids along the fence, the ones that come to your house at 4 or 5 in the morning. Remember, I've come to you before with to make sure you're all right.
I didn't
as
notice.
a neighbor. And 6 o'clock in the morning, having coffee with the neighborhood being with trailers missing and dogs getting loose.
Ma'am, I'm not sure I can follow where you're going with this. None of it makes any sense to me.
Oh, I apologize, Israel. I thought that was, as neighbors, we were confiding in each other to try to help solve the problems out in Interlochen.
Oh, we do, but you don't blame somebody else's little dog for anything. I don't even know anything about the little dogs.
I apologize. You had brought it to my attention at that point when that had happened, when I had come to retrieve my unconscious dog. You had brought it to my attention about it, Israel. You had mentioned to me about them cutting my fence.
Hang on, Ms. Mead. This is your opportunity to ask Mr. Quaylar questions, not to testify yourself. You will have that opportunity to testify yourself, but please, at this point, stick to questions, okay?
Okay. With that first incident, then, when the officer came up, Israel, the first officer on duty, at what state were the dogs in when the officer showed up?
Well, he was still in shock, as was I. It was within the first hour. You just don't start to feel it till the shock goes away. Then you start bleeding and you start feeling pain. And now it's 2 hours into it. Then I started to feel it.
Was when the officer showed up, because you say that you allegedly pulled them apart. It was not the officer Cooney?
No, I pulled the dog apart. The officer wasn't there when the dog came over and grabbed my dog.
Well, and I understand. I apologize. I was at work, so I just had to hear through what was going on. But the paperwork report that I read, it said that the officer was actually there to try to split them up, and that Miranda is the one that split them up, according to the officer's paperwork of Cooley 961.
Ma'am, you're not making any sense. There's no way that a dog catcher can come in there, an officer can come in there 5 seconds after the dog goes in there and starts fighting.
That's why I was asking what state it was. What state it was when the law enforcement actually showed up.
Everybody was chewed up and in pain.
Who's everybody?
Me and my dog.
You and Sam?
Yes.
And at that point, they told you whose dog it was?
Yes, I told him who it was.
You told him who it was?
Yes.
And that was the report of the black lab in the pit bull, correct?
It was Milo from your house.
No, the report that you wrote about the black pit in the lab from our house.
No, I didn't write anything about a black pit. I don't know where
the gray or the white one.
I don't know where you're going with this. I just know that your dogs.
In your story.
I just
because
know
then
that
you said there was a second time when he trapped the van.
Yes, Your Honor.
I guess I'm not sure what the question is, Ms. Mead. I was just going to remind you, you need to ask questions, okay?
we'll have a 12 hours after the last incident on 5/5/21. Did you not speak to me again, Israel? It would have been the third time in the 12 hours after an incident happened.
No, after you came back to see if everybody was all right, I don't think I spoke to you anymore.
When I was talking to you on the porch about 3:30 on Friday afternoon, you were realizing that I'm not my wife, apparently, allegedly, apparently. And you told me that you were on the phone with the sheriff's department and that you were taking alternative measures.
Is there a question in there? Is there a question in there?
On Friday, yeah, on Friday at about 3:30. Did I not speak to you then when you were? You told me at that point that you no longer would speak to me, and that out of respect because I had been kind. That was Friday about 3:30, correct?
I don't recall. No, I'm sorry.
When I was on the porch, and at that point, I actually had a little, I was a little concerned because your demeanor had changed at that point.
No, you came back 20 minutes after the attack to see if everybody was okay. And
the first time, and then the second time I came back.
I don't think there was a second time.
And then the third time I came back.
I don't think there was a third time either.
And the fourth time I came back.
Well, when I'd make it a fifth time, you're on a roll.
Well, the fifth time is when I had come over and there was animal control was involved.
Lady, there was no fifth time.
And then it's okay. That's all right. Thank you.
All right.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
That's all you have? Okay. Ms. Blue, any follow-up direct examination?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So then, Mr. Quaylar, you are excused at this time. I assume you're interested in continuing watching, but you're free to go if you would like. You are welcome to stay on the call here. So next witness, Ms. Blue.
At this time, we called Officer Brown, Your Honor.
All right, Officer Brown, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand on. Go ahead, Ms. Blue.
Officer Brown, can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
John Brown, WN.
And how are you currently employed?
Grand Traverse County Animal Control.
Were you the responding officer on or about May 4th, 2021?
Yes. Yes.
And can you please describe what you observed upon arrival?
So we got a call the next day about the incident, and I went to go speak with the Meads about it. They were not home. And then I ended up going back later on, another day later.
Okay, so you didn't actually respond on the day the incident occurred?
No.
Are you aware of prior incidents with Milo?
Yes.
What type of prior incidents have occurred?
There was another, the dog bite of the first time, and then dog running at large another time after that.
Do you have the approximate dates of those incidents?
6/9/20. That was, I'm assuming, the first dog bite. 7/1/20, dog running at large. And then the dog bite from a previous incident that happened on their own property. And then this incident.
Was there any, or I guess, did you have any conversations with the Meads at any point since the first dog bite in June of 2020 about protections moving forward to ensure this didn't happen again?
I'm not the officer that responded to that one.
Have you had any conversations after this incident about measures that might take place?
Yes. I told them possible, get your fit, build something that the dog cannot get out of. I explained that to him.
Are you aware of how the dog was getting out?
There was a hole in the fence.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. So again, Misty and Miranda Mead, it's your opportunity to ask questions of the officer if you would like. So who would like to ask questions?
It would be me, Your Honor. Miranda Mead.
Okay, go ahead.
So you have had Milo for 2 weeks now, quarantined in your guys' possession, correct?
Correct.
Has he shown any signs of being vicious or mean or any of the above?
No, he has not.
I guess that's all the questions I have because I don't know what I'm supposed to ask.
Okay, Ms. Blue, any cross-examination? Or, I'm sorry, redirect. Okay, and I didn't give Misty a chance to ask questions. Did you have any questions for this officer?
She actually walked away for a minute because she was going to be sick, so she walked away for a minute.
Okay, why don't we wait for her to return? Let me know when she returns, okay?
I'm going to call for her. Misty, do you have any questions for John? You got to come ask. Oh, she just wants to know if her little buddy's doing okay and if he's being good for you.
He's doing fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so with that, do you have any additional witnesses, Ms. Blue?
I do not, Your Honor. I'm all set.
All right, so at this time, it is your chance, Ms. Mead and Misty Mead, to testify if you like, or present any other evidence or witnesses that you have. It looks like you're the only ones on the call. So would you like to testify, Ms. Mead?
So I just wanted to tell my story of the first incident of when Israel.
Okay,
when
but
Milo
hang on. I gotta swear you in like the rest of the witnesses, okay? So raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down. So go ahead and tell me whatever you want me to know.
So on the first incident, I had let my dogs out the back door. I wasn't aware of the hole in the fence. I heard some squabbling, and I was honestly on the toilet, so I got up off the toilet, and my dog wasn't in the backyard, so I automatically went to the back corner where he always runs. That's his barking corner. So I went back there, and I realized that he was not in there, and there was a hole, that the fence was opened up, and that he was over at Israel's. I automatically climbed through the fence, through the hole in the fence, and at that time, I saw the neighbor lady handing Israel the crowbar. I had walked over, or I didn't walk, honestly. I ran and tripped through the woods trying to get to my dog because Israel had a hold of his harness, trying to yank him off of Sam. I went over and I personally stopped Israel from swinging the crowbar at him one time. The first time I stopped, he didn't hit my dog with the crowbar. I went over there and I put my hand in I personally put my hand in Milo's mouth, and I told him, "Ouch, you're biting Mom, you need to let go." And he released his jaw and let go. Well, Milo has like a foot-long leash that's at all times attached to his harness. I wasn't going to show my dog to walk back and go back through the fence. I walked him around the block, and I told him all the way home, I'm like, "I'm really mad at you. This is the way you go. You do not go through our fence." I mean, I scolded him like a 3-year-old child, because dogs are like 3-year-old children. And I walked him back around the yard, and I put him in the house. I went back, and at that point, I went back and I pulled the fence back together, because it's like where the neighbor's privacy fence and our privacy fence butt up together. The boards had kind of like moved. So I ratchet strapped it all together. And then I went in on the other side of the fence, and I like propped stuff up, like made it so he couldn't get out the hole. I don't know what happened from now till then, from then to now, I apologize. But we do have a kennel inside of our fenced in yard, and it's reinforced, and it's 6 feet tall. It buries down into the ground so he can't dig out. It goes 2 feet down and 2 feet over, buried into the ground, so he can't dig his way out and he can't jump out. I will put him, he will be leashed, chained, or in that kennel at all times he is outside. That's all I can, that's all I got. It's like our kids. Our kids are all grown up, graduated, moved out, and the dog is our kid.
Okay, so Ms. Blue. All right, Ms. Blue, do you have any questions for Ms. Mead?
I do not, Your Honor.
Okay, so do you want to check with Misty and see whether she wants to testify as well?
Do you want to testify as well? I don't know if there is a testify to, other than I told him everything. Do you want to testify?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to put your right hand up.
Okay.
Without the squirrel.
Is that what that was, a squirrel?
Yes, it is. It is a squirrel. He fell out of his nest, and we've been taking care of him since 2 weeks.
Okay, that answers the question.
We have a very blended family, Your Honor. We've taken all the rest of it, Your Honor.
Okay, well, that answers the question my court recorder and I had. What you were nursing. It was obvious you were nursing something. Okay, so if you want to raise your right hand, Ms. Mead, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, so this is the testimony of Misty Mead. You can put your hand down. So go ahead and tell me whatever you want me to know.
Your Honor, he's not a bad dog. Honestly, we did drugs the first couple of years, and he started getting sober, and we realized that there was a problem, there was an epidemic, and I started working with him myself. Clearly, I'm not the most sane person you'll ever meet, but I started working with him with my heart and my soul, and this dog saved me. Since the coronavirus, we've had 6 kids move out of our house, 2 full-time jobs, and it destroyed me knowing that I have all this time now and no kids to put it towards. So I really started working towards this dog, because this dog, he was my savior after 16-year-old shepherd that I lost, and then 6 kids, and how many bad stories and woes and abuse. It's, and I've really been working with this guy. I really have been. And he can dance really good out front of AFC with the ladies in the wheelchair. He's a cool dog. You just have to talk to him. And I don't know what happened. I don't normally take a nap. And this one incident, I had woke up out of a nap, and my wife told me I was even in the bathroom. I don't even know. I just heard a whistle and I was there in 30 seconds, and my dog was unconscious. I asked Israel, I said, Israel, what really happened? And that's when there's 5 different stories came out. And I said, Israel, you were the last bit of humanity, faith in humanity I had left. Because once you say, I believe in Jesus, it sounds crazy, but it all goes downhill and nobody talks to you after that. And he was the last little bit of hope I had left. And I had spoken to him several times to make sure everything was okay. And then on that Friday at 3:30, when he realized that I wasn't my wife, his voice tone had changed. I was intimidated, and I've never been intimidated with Israel before. And I said, Israel, when he said my dog was a deadly weapon, I said, Israel, my car is a deadly weapon. My mind is a deadly weapon. That dog is what silly peapotamus pit bull face is the thing that gets me up and out of bed in the morning to make me realize that I need to be a productive member of society, that, you can't just sit around and have your pity parties, if you will, for lack of better words, but that you got to keep moving forward. And since I haven't had my guy, I've got my wife dragging me out of bed, and I've been my wife's table force since day one. I'm the one that she leans on, and that pit bull has picked me up and dried my tears more times. He has made more understanding of the human race
in his own dogisms to me to understand, for me to even not become that evil being that, you know, it lurks within somebody. And I know I've spoken with Israel on a dozen occasions about this stuff. And when I questioned him and he told me about that lady handing him that number, that's when I broke and I said, Israel, how do I know that you're not just setting up because I'm a homeowner to set me up for insurance? And I didn't mean any harm by it, but at that point I started to think like a human being. And I'm sure Animal Control's already told you, know, when they came to get him, he really is a piece of my heart and a piece of my soul. And we've got that fence now. We've got the kennel inside of the privacy fence now, which is a 5-foot walk. And we have a chain hook there so that he won't at any given point time be unattended. And I personally will attest to this dog to be attached to me at all times, because this squirrel just isn't cutting it. This squirrel is not a good reminder in the middle of the night that I still have to function and I still have to breathe, and there's still children out there that, you know, I brought into this world and have to show, you know, some kind of an example for. And I do appreciate your time, Your Honor, and I do apologize for the batshit crazy. But he was my rock. He was my guiding source. He's what kept me going. He's the one that told me it was okay to get up when I was down, praying on my knees with, you know, your gun to your head. And he's the one that comes and picks me up. He's the one that comes and licks my tears. It's not the wife. The wife's off doing what the wife does, you know. There's just no book, instructions. And
okay. Thank you, Ms. Mead. It's obvious you care a lot about your dog. Appreciate that. All right, Ms. Blue, do you have any questions for Ms. Mead?
I do not, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Well, do you have any other evidence or witnesses to present, Misty or Miranda?
We do not know.
I was gonna say, I wish I would have gotten a hold of Northwood Animal Hospital. I actually just got a card from them because they were having a hard time dealing with them in their breeds. And I've actually been working with the ladies at Northwood Animal Hospital, and they call him Milo Marie now, because I'm training them how to work with that breed. I'm training them how to work with him, how to, you know, not just come at him directly head on, how to, you know, walk in and fall into step. And I wish I would have known Northwood that I got the sweetest card about them, me taking time to help their techs.
Okay. All right. Well, the evidence is in then. And so I would like to hear closing statements then. Ms. Blue, would you like to start?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to keep it brief, we heard from both the vet and the doctor at the beginning of the testimony today. Dr. Springsteen testified that the puncture wound to Mr. Cuellar is consistent with a dog bite. Dr. Obadzinski then testified that evaluated Sam, Mr. Cuellar's dog, and that had a bite that was consistent with a dog bite, or not a dog bite, but a bite, a puncture that was consistent with a bite wound. And then we heard from Mr. Cuellar himself, who has told the court of 3 different incidents in the past year, almost year, of Milo coming across the street and attacking his dog. I don't think there's any question that the Meads care for their dog great. I think it's clear that everybody can see that today, but unfortunately, Mr. Cuellar has a right to live in his own home and, you know, love his dog and be with his dog in the same way that the Meads do. And unfortunately, that just hasn't been happening at this time. There's been 3 separate attacks, and there have not been any measures taken to ensure that it doesn't happen again up to this point. You know, it's unfortunate, but I think Animal Control and the county health department hands are tied as to what we're asking for today, and that is euthanasia of the dog, as it's a dangerous animal.
What if him
Okay. All right. So at this time, I'll hear from the Meads, and if you would both like to say something, that's fine, or if one of you wants to speak for both of you.
I would be more than happy to walk away from my house if I'm given my dog. I will walk away from my house. And that whole, so he doesn't have to worry about that. At that point, I will give up my house to have my dog, because that house, it's been nothing but a meth shithole in that neighborhood for months, for years. And there's nothing good. When there's four officers show up to come take your best friend, when all you have to do is just use a few words, and there's a meth bust every other week. And then we're sold for those at the party store because we're gay. It's no place to live. I've been there 20 years.
We'll happily walk
And
away.
I would happily walk away because so Israel doesn't have to have that fear again of this dog. And that is my guarantee. That dog will be attached to me at every given point. I'd be more than happy to relocate. More than happy. I'm begging to relocate. A wise judge once said it's not the dogs in Interlaken that have to be euthanized, it's some of the people.
That was the same from a wise judge.
It was a very wise judge before you, sir. And please don't put my guy down. Don't last few weeks like this in doggy jail and then come at him like that. It's just, I'd even told him I'd put him down myself if I had to. But I would be more than happy to relocate.
Okay.
That way there's not a problem, and then he doesn't have to be in fear.
All right. Well, thank you. So the evidence and arguments are in, and based upon all of the evidence, it's clear that, and there's two parts to this. There's, first of all, the finding of whether or not the dog owned by Misty and Miranda Mead is a dangerous animal. And the second part is to decide what to do about it. Okay. So with regard to the first decision I have to make, it's whether or not the dog named Milo is a dangerous animal. And to find that the animal is dangerous, I would have to find that the dog attacked or bit a person, which is clear in this case. Mr. Quaylar testified he was bitten by the dog when he, on his own property, when it attacked his dog. It was a natural reaction to try to save his own dog. And he testified that twice he pried the jaws of the dog open in order to save his own dog. And I know there's some controversy about that. Misty Mead testified, or maybe I think it was Miranda who said that she is the one that actually pried the dog's mouth open the first time, and that Mr. Quaylar was holding it by the harness. But what's clear to me is that Mr. Quaylar was there at the beginning of this whole thing, and I'm not disputing what Ms. Mead is saying about what she did, but she would have missed some of the beginning of that incident. And so maybe that's possibly how you explain the discrepancy in the statements. But I found nothing about Mr. Quaylar's testimony that was in any way suggestive that he was adding to or exaggerating anything or doing anything other than testifying truthfully here today. I think he was a truthful witness. And so it's clear that the dog bit him. There are pictures of his finger having been injured, actually several fingers, but a couple of pretty good punctures there. And he's even testified he's a guitar player and a piano player. And so the one injury to the finger on the inside of the finger that has a cut across the whole finger has been particularly painful, and he's still, even at this time, not able to, I guess, play his guitar normally. So there was also testimony by Dr. Springsteen that he treated Mr. Quaylar, and the injury appeared consistent with being bitten by a dog, and testimony that the other dog, Mr. Quaylar's dog, Sam, was taken to Banfield for treatment of his injuries, and there was a puncture wound to that dog. So the other way I can find or should find that the dog named Milo is a dangerous animal is if the dog destroyed property or habitually caused damage by trespassing on property of a person who is not the owner. And so I also find that is true. The destroyed property in this case is, I hate to describe a dog as property, but in the law, that's how dogs are viewed. And so in this case, the dog was attacked twice that we know of. The incident here being alleged is on May the 4th. And so for that reason, I also find the facts support that that dog was attacked. Again, we've got the testimony of the vet as well as Mr. Quaylar supporting that that animal was attacked twice. So I do find that the dog named Milo, owned by Misty and Miranda Mead, is a dangerous animal. Now, the next part of my decision is to determine what is an appropriate remedy. And there's no question here that Misty and Miranda Mead care a great deal about their animal. As Mr. Quaylar pointed out, he cares a great deal about his dog as well, and does not wish to see his dog killed or injured. And he's been in a situation where he's had to pry the jaws of a dog apart twice. And there's a third incident where he said his knees and his legs were scratched up when the dog entered his yard. So it's 3 times that the dog has been loose. And the Meads were talked to about that in the past by the officer who testified, Officer Brown. And they were notified of the problems. They were aware of it. And so the question becomes, what do we do so this doesn't happen again? And at this point, I'm going to call on the prosecutor again. Ms. Blue, what are the people seeking?
And as this court knows, we've dealt with cases like this before where this is not always the first step that we jump to. But I think in a situation where there's 3 instances in the past year, I think at this point it has to be the safety of Mr. Quayar, his dog, and the community. And so we are asking for euthanization at this time.
Okay, well, typically what this court would do is to first order that an enclosure, if this were a first incident, order that there be an appropriate enclosure and give the defendant an opportunity to try to prove that they can successfully contain the animal. Now, after the second incident, the officer became involved. He was aware of the first incident, talked to the Meads about this, and that did not happen because then we had a third incident. So I am going to grant, okay, hang on. I'm going to grant the request of the prosecutor, and that is for euthanization of the animal. I will make this one exception, and that is there are rescues out there, and I don't know if they're specifically for pit bull, in the area. It would have to be within the area. And I would allow that, that rescue that is not going to just farm the animal out to someone else to cause similar problems. But there are rescues that will take care of these animals indefinitely. And if that's an option, I would make it available. But I don't think it would be fair in any way for Mr. Quaylar to have to live under the threat of having to possibly be in a situation where his dog gets killed, or he is risking his own safety to try to save the animal. I think what he said about he just doesn't think he could handle it again. I think most people in Mr. Quaylar's situation probably would have not intervened the way he did to pry the dog's jaws apart, because that took quite a bit of bravery in itself. To do it a second time is very had to be very difficult. And the idea that he would be placed in that same situation again, this court, as much as I care about animals, and I very much understand what the Meads are saying about how important this dog is to them, having had dogs myself and currently having dogs, they are important companions, and that doesn't mean that the Meads couldn't get another animal in the future that maybe isn't going to have the same sort of disposition. And it sounds like this is generally a nice dog, but there is something about other dogs that sets it off, and it goes racing across the yard, and it goes onto other people's property, and it attacks. Excuse me if I'm going to mute the Meads at this time, because this is the time for my decision. So that is the order of the court. Whatever, if there is some rescue that would be able to take the animal, and this court would have to be convinced again that this isn't just farming the animal out so that it can cause further destruction or injury. Yeah, the court would have to be satisfied that that the animal would be prevented from doing that. So that is the order of the court. And in addition, the defendants are responsible for payment of the bill for the quarantine. Yeah, Ms. Blue, are you asking for any additional relief?
Just that $225.75 for the vet bill from this third incident.
Okay, well, I will go ahead and award that as well. So let's see, Ms. Mead has her hand up. So yeah, Ms. Mead, go ahead.
Am I going to have a point to appeal this before my dog's euthanized?
Well, you can file an appeal, but it would be up to the court whether to allow to stay the case so that could go forward.
And do I
so
need to find the rescue?
You want to do it? What's that?
I said, do we need to find the rescue, or is somebody going to assist us with that?
it would be up to you to find a rescue and to propose a solution and to work with the prosecutor on that. This happened in one other case, but I think it was husky dogs that they specialized in. And I don't know of a similar rescue for pit bulls, but huskies can have a similar problem attacking small animals. Okay, I don't know who's talking in the background, but so anyway, okay, so that is the ruling of the court. And is there anything else for you, Ms. Blue?
I guess I just have a clarifying question as far as the time frame. I mean, the dog is on a quarantine hold at Cherryland at this point. You know, I certainly want to give the Meads an opportunity to find a rescue, but I don't know if we should place a time limit on that. So the bill is not incurring, and also the dog is just not remaining in a,
He doesn't deserve it.
in a kennel.
No, he doesn't deserve what he's getting. Just stop.
Okay, I'm going to mute the Meads again. I will set a time frame of up to 14 days. And recognizing that this is an expense for Cherryland. It is an expense, however, that they will be able to bill the Meads for. So I would bill any additional quarantine to the Meads as part of my order. So they could either let the prosecutor know if they have no interest in appealing, that would reduce the quarantine time. But if they, well, we'll go from there anyhow. But I'd give them up to 14 days, and that's it. So we're all set for today. Thank you for being here, and feel free to sign off at this time.
Would the court like me to prepare an order, or will the court do that?
Yes, I'll have you prepare the order, Ms. Blue. Thank you.
Thank you.
The exhibits will be with the file.